Okay, can you each we'll start with Peyton, introduce yourselves. If anyone does not know who these people are, I don't know how you work in social, but introduce yourselves a little bit and tell us about what you do.
I'll take it very personally. I'm Peyton Dix. I previously was in editorial, worked at InStyle Magazine, Paper Magazine, moved to beauty, switched it up, went to MAC Cosmetics, and now I'm a freelance, full-time freelance. I do content creation. I work with brands on social consulting, brand Bible building, creative marketing campaigns from, the high res to the low res, all the things. But that's a little bit about me. I'll pass it to you, Rachel.
I'm Rachel Carton. I write a newsletter called Link in Bio, all about working in social media. And I'm a social media consultant. And I also was an editorial. I worked at Bon Appetit for 4 years.
Wait, raise your hand if you're subscribed to Link in Bio.
Wow, shout out.
Yeah, real ones.
Yeah.
Day ones. And good morning, everyone. I am Jade Powell. So I feel like if you've heard this stereotype before, it's that Jamaicans have multiple jobs, and I feel like I am the embodiment of that. So I technically have 3 jobs. I am the co-founder of Weed for Black Women, which is a cannabis education hub for Black women in the cannabis industry. I also own my own agency called the M-Co, and I am also the host of Creator Tea Talk on LinkedIn, where we talk about the creator economy with marketers and influencers. So all that to say, I'm in my content creation era, marketing era. I do it all.
Jade, you're not doing enough, I think. Actually.
I know, right?
Can you do more?
The strive higher.
Yeah. Let's start a little bit with sharing maybe a piece of content that you've worked on that you're proud of, just to give everybody a little bit of context. So we'll start with Peyton's.
Can I? There's an audio, so I'll speak.
Yeah, you can speak over.
It's just we're silently watching Chloe Cherry eat cake. You're like, what did you bring me to? But this was a teaser for our MAC holiday campaign in 2022. I really, honestly, the piece of content I'm probably most proud of is like photoshopping my face on Zoe Kravitz's body when Channing Tatum followed me on that viral photo of like them on a bike. If you know, you know. And if you do, you're real as hell. But this was more of an example of like, work TM, something that was a fun example of getting MAC to be a little bit more of a space to play and working with someone that you wouldn't typically put in what we would think traditional MAC campaign at that time. So that was a fun little example that I begged for. I was like, I want that cake. It was a nasty cake too, so she's a real one for that. It had been sitting in lights all day anyway. But yeah, it was definitely something that was a fun example of content that was playful and fun and exciting. Yeah.
So fun. Can we cue up Rachel's example?
Mine's a teaser too.
Let's see the teaser. Are they listening to me?
Keep y'all waiting.
We're just creating hype.
So this was a collab between Kava and Emma Chamberlain, and this was just like a very simple teaser for it, but it was, we knew that Emma was a fan of Claire, and so we saw ourselves as like the opportunity to bring the two of them together, and got a sponsored post on Claire's YouTube channel that has over 2 million views, and is one of her most popular videos, organic or sponsored. So just a fun collab moment.
I remember this so well. I was like, oh my God. Okay, Jade, can we cue up Jade's?
My proud moment is a LinkedIn post that I posted several, I guess, like months ago. So one thing about me is on LinkedIn, I just like to be me. And I feel like this is a very great reflection of this. I am very anti-corporate on LinkedIn, and I do it intentionally because I'm a big believer that we need to change what corporate culture looks like. And I just don't think we need to talk like this to get our point across. So I'm just like, instead of talking about key objectives and strategizing, just say, what did I miss during the meeting? A lot more effective communication, in my opinion. So this is me. Welcome to my brain.
This is a love language.
Yeah, it is so good. Yeah. Nothing is that serious in corporate America. I'm like, no one's dying in social media or PR, so literally. I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
Okay, so now you have a little context into like the iconic work that these people do. I do want to get into, you guys have been working in social for so long. Now you're like the voice of social media managers everywhere. How have you seen the role of the social media manager evolve? How have you seen like the team evolve? And where do you think things are going? Who wants to start? Peyton, go ahead. You're laughing. You're laughing.
Well, I think that it's so funny. I'm about to be 30.
I just turned
Applause, nothing for that.
Club.
Okay. No, but, and I feel like when I got into social media, it wasn't something that I really even saw as a career option. I was a writer first by trade. I did journalism, and so I didn't think that social for me was just a place to play for myself, for my own personal. I wouldn't even say brand then. And the way that I even watched social evolve in these past, I don't know, let's say 5 to 10 years, it's just drastically shifted so much. And I think that there was such a blatant disrespect for social media managers that still, I will say, exists. And it's very much comes into that whole like which intern, blah blah blah. And not to discredit interns. Interns are amazing and the backbone of all brands. But it's to say that like this is a real job that to treat seriously and has taught me so many skills I would not have had if I had just stayed writing. And I do think that, you know, it led me to producing, it led me to creative direction, it led me to all these opportunities I would have never had and skills I would have never honed if I did not work in social. And I think now there's a landscape that is moving past this idea that there's a ceiling after, let's say, like director of social. Like you have so many skill sets that you can evolve in so many ways if you want to and lead into you know, creative direction. You can like move up in ways that aren't just limiting you to what, you know, you might see on an Instagram feed. So I think there's a lot of opportunity. You know, when I went to InStyle magazine, I didn't want social in my bio. I was like, I'm doing 20 jobs. This is not just a social editor role. And they helped me carve out a job for me that would make sense. That was a special projects editor instead. So that's something that I think is an opportunity for anyone moving in social, is to kind of play and figure out what you like and kind of cater the job towards those skills.
Rachel?
I would just say that something that I feel like I've noticed recently is a lot more like creators on social teams. And so it's not the traditional social strategist, social manager. Now there are creators, there are people who are in videos, there are social managers in videos. I know we are going to talk about this a little bit later and some of the like pros and cons of that, but I think it's exciting to see social teams growing in new ways and new types of roles opening up across teams.
And I think over time, I've really had to redefine what a social work role looks like for me. I think when I started in my career, my first role was a social media intern. And this was about 2013, where brands were like, what's the ROI of social? And I'm like, vibes, I don't know. Like, we'll
That's
see.
right.
Vibes. And since then, I've literally had like every social title. So social strategist, head of social, director of social. But I found that no matter the company or organization size, there was a lot of bleed through of what that role kind of looked like. And I think over time, I quickly realized I really just wanted to focus on content and creative development. And I'm very proud to say that my latest role, I did a brief stint as a creative director of social on a project. Can't talk about the brand because I signed an NDA, but it was great and I got paid very well. Love that for me. But I do think it kind of shows the opportunities for social creatives who want to focus just on the creative work. Because I also feel when we're working in marketing and advertising, when you think about who are in these creative roles, they can sometimes will seem that it's just copywriters or designers or producers or photographers. But I think people that work in social know that we're all of those things and thus can be creatives as well.
I love how positive you guys are about this, because sometimes for me, I'm like, okay, director of social, what can I possibly do next? And we have a session later today that's talking about social media managers becoming the next CMOs. But what if I don't want to be a CMO? Like, I don't want to be a CMO, actually. Maybe, I don't know. I don't think so. But I think what's so cool about working in social the last 10 years is, like you're saying, we can create our own positions and you can kind of make it into what you want to make it. And that's so interesting. I do want to know, you guys know a lot about social. You have been working in this field for so long. What do you think the next platform is that's going to die? RIP Vine, RIP MySpace, RIP kind of Facebook, not really. What do you think the next one is that's going to die? And do you have an idea of what's coming next? Peyton, you go. Or do you want to take a sip of water? Okay, we'll start this way. We'll start this way. Jade.
Please sit. Yeah, so honestly, I think all social platforms have the potential to die. They can be their own ruin if they don't listen to their consumers, honestly. I think what I'm seeing a lot of is the platforms kind of replicating features that other platforms have. And I don't know that that's like the best strategy. Like, obviously, I'm not in their business operations meeting talking about like what's the future of their business. But I think from someone that works in social, I really feel like brands, well, social media platforms need to get back to like staying to the core of who they are. Personally, I would love for Instagram to return to just being a photo sharing app. I would really love for other social media platforms to not feel like they have stories, especially on a LinkedIn. Like, I don't want any, I'm by the water cooler. Like, that just.
I want that actually. I'm by the water cooler. I'm like, she is tea. I'm coming over.
Yes. Like, what type of water are you drinking? Purified? But I think every platform has potential to be in their own ruin if they don't listen to their consumers ultimately. But I think one of the emerging platforms that I'm really loving right now is Spill, especially because they have really focused on uplifting Black, brown, and queer creators, which I think is incredibly important across the industry.
And they're going to be here at
Yeah,
the conference,
you guys will get
so
to see
you guys
Fawn's
can hear
talking.
them.
But Spill is such a cool platform, and I'm excited to see where they go these next several years.
Nice. Which one do you think is going to die, though, for real? If you could pick one.
I'm gonna be honest. I'm hating on Instagram right now.
Whoa, that's a hot take.
I know.
Yeah.
It's mainly just because I feel like they're doing their creators a disservice by not helping them reach the people that they want to be. And I just don't always think that you need to pay to play. Like, I get it from a business standpoint, but I always hear when talking to other creators and influencers that everyone is like, I just feel like people don't see my content. And then we follow the rules that they ambiguously give us, which is like, post more reels, do this, post on your stories. And it's just like, I think people in social know that there's no right way to do social. So I feel like it's up to the platform to really provide a space where creators and influencers can amplify their reach when they're posting content.
Rachel?
I agree with Jade on the Instagram front, just in the sense that I feel like they're trying to be like TikTok, and then I'm not trying to open TikTok and Instagram to have like duplicative experiences. In terms of platforms I want to see, I think that, Be Real and Laps try to do a good job of, being platforms for existing community building, but I think there's opportunity for a better platform to emerge that is less discovery focused, more about connection with your friends or existing community, and I would love to see that happen.
What platform do you think is the next to die out?
Instagram.
Instagram. Damn, this is not what I thought you guys were going to say.
I know, Instagram catching strays.
I love Instagram.
That is in their boots right now.
I mean, well, with that though, I'm very hesitant to get behind. I've tried actively to get behind Threads, but I actually don't think Instagram. I think is similar to Twitter. I think it'll just always be here. Twitter will never die. There's too many we live in New York. Like, when the end of times comes, we're on all Twitter. Like, what is the mean? Yeah, that's what it's going to look like.
The earthquake happened and everyone's like,
yeah, see that?
Like, we've already seen the way we would react when like anything catastrophic happens. We're online and we're on Twitter. But I do think I've not seen, and maybe it's just too early to say, but I don't know if Threads is ever going to really, it had that peak that was really smart timing when it launched.
Yeah.
And I think that was so strategic. But now when I even go to check Threads, I don't see new users. I don't see the people that make me want to repost, that make me want to post to my Instagram story. I do think that it might have a better interface for marketing and for ads, the way that Twitter absolutely does not. But I do think that it's a platform that kind of is already reaching its plateau, unfortunately. But, the ethos of it being like a nice counter to, like a friendly neighborhood counter to Twitter, it's like, I kind of want to be with all the haters a little bit. Yeah, I don't know if I want to find a nice place. Like, Instagram, I think, already kind of holds some of that already.
Yeah. If you guys were a brand or you're posting on behalf of a brand, would you choose to put your efforts into Twitter? Or no one said X yet, but I guess that's what
I won't.
Yeah.
And I won't hear from these lips. No.
I'm not calling it that letter.
Would you put your efforts into Twitter, into Threads, into just forget them both? Like what? Like me for ADWEEK, what should I do?
I would focus on Twitter.
Me too.
That's where I feel like I built the foundation of my presence, and I feel like it's so easy to build community there. And I feel like Twitter is also the space where brands can be a little bit more flexible in how they talk to their customers. And just because it's so easy to find content that you're looking for, especially through advanced search. So I feel like Twitter is the way, the truth, and the light.
You both agree?
Fully. I mean, I honestly think Twitter is a really great testing ground for brands to try changing up voice strategy.
Absolutely.
To just because if it flops, okay, no one's seen it. It's just
Yeah.
one like, whatever, archive it, whatever you need to do.
Yeah.
But I also think I've always say like a tweet is a Reels is a TikTok, and so like Twitter is the best space in my opinion, and I even use it for my own personal brand, not even just brands that I'm working with, as a testing ground. You see something take off there. What's the spoken version of that tweet? What's like the snarky I'm walking with my iced coffee version of that, of saying that out loud, and how can I make that into multiple pieces of content? And I think that Twitter is a great kind of starting point for that before you like put a face and a name and a background and a whole video asset behind it.
Yeah.
That's so smart. I hope someone wrote that down.
Yeah.
Hope this is recorded.
I've noticed this greater trend of we're now going into niche communities. So I know with TikTok and Reels, it was all about discoverability and everyone wanted to be in front of everyone else. And now I'm noticing things like Substack and Discord and WhatsApp groups and Facebook groups, not only with older people, but with younger people too, becoming like coming back into style or whatever, becoming more trendy. Do you guys think this is the future of social media, is Substack and Discord and newsletters? Or do you think we'll always gravitate towards I want to be in front of everybody platform?
I feel like social media used to be a distribution channel in and of itself, and then you had your website and you had SMS and everything else. And now social media is an entire ecosystem that has a funnel within social media. And so I think Instagram, Twitter will always exist, but I think that brands are wanting to funnel their communities down a little bit more within that social media ecosystem. And so, yeah, like Tory Burch is on Substack. A lot of founders are on Substack. I think that brands are wanting to find ways to take that really broad social audience and get them into a little bit nicher of a community, but it still will exist within the entire ecosystem, if that makes sense.
To elaborate on that, I feel like it's not just the brands that want that. I think it's the community members that want that as well. Because I feel like for a lot of brands who are building on social platforms, it's not just enough to have those one-to-one interactions between the brands and the community members in the comment section. Like I'm noticing with more brands that the community members are wanting to talk to each other. So we have to think about what does that space look like that kind of fosters that environment so that they can engage, connect beyond just your brand channels. And I think that's why, there's even like Slack communities popping up, which I think a lot of brands have had found helpful because it just gives another layer of connection for your community.
I actually don't have anything to add to that. I think it was both
great.
Yeah.
Love that. I'm curious, all of you have kind of pivoted into creating really strong personal brands for yourself after working for huge brands. And I'm wondering, I don't know if any of you guys in the audience, like you're trying to build up your own personal brand and it's hard to do separate or alongside working for a company. I don't know if you have any advice to that. Like, did you know you wanted to start a personal brand from the get-go? How did you decide to like pivot more into your personal versus brand? I know you guys like also help brands. If you could speak to any of that, please help us.
Well, I love attention. Surprise. And I'm a Virgo rising. So I feel like those things, you are?
Yeah.
The best of us are, yes. More on that later. That's a different panel. But I do think for me, it was this combination of having community building and storytelling has always been like, that's what I say that I do. Like, and I've done it in so many ways. And I think branching out was in terms of making content on my own, was just a way to connect in a totally new way. And I had amassed a little bit of a following because of the work that I was doing when I was writing, when I was, making social content for brands. And now I feel like, oh, this is this whole entity on its own that I get to decide what's for me and what's for brands. Like sometimes I'm fully just posting things to see if it works as a little bit of a test. And I did that when I was full-time at Paper, InStyle, Mac. Like I would try things on my own to see if it worked. I wasn't really, I'm riddled with embarrassment, but I wasn't as embarrassed to like try something and maybe see if it landed or flopped. But it's been something that's been a really nice tool because I've worked with brands where now I have relationships with them in so many different capacities. So I've done like social consulting with them. I've done like influencer marketing with them. And then I've been an influencer with them or, moderated panels all with the same brand. And it feels like a so much more holistic, fun relationship that's reflective of the work I like to do and the skill set I have and the way that we can kind of work together to build that out across their entire brand, not just on social. But I highly encourage people, if that's something that they are interested in. I don't like when I never pigeonhole someone into being like, go be the face now of it. Like some social editors just want to be social editors. Like they don't want to be, the face of a brand. It's a lot to take on. So if you do have that interest, though, I do think it's really important to explore it because there's so much opportunity there to teach you about how brands work and, what you like to do when, with your face and your likeness. But yeah.
You have to renegotiate that into your.
Yes, it's a different fee for this. Yeah, but yes, we do be negotiating. But yeah.
I think it's been an interesting journey for me because I feel like I've been building my personal brand since I was like 18. That's when I started my first business. It was a cupcake business, and I was like selling to people in my high school. But
Entrepreneur.
Okay, yeah. She always knew. But I think over time, a lot of it of what my brand has looked like has really changed because my interests have changed, my values have changed, and who I am as a person has changed over time. But it's interesting because what I have found in all of the brands that I've managed social for, my brand has been my favorite. And I think it's because I'm so close to it and I have the ability to evolve in the way that I want to and do the things that I want to do. And it just allows me the creative freedom that I wouldn't have if I'm working for a brand and a C-suite executive is breathing on my neck, asking me to explain why I posted a photo on Instagram, So it just has allowed me a lot of freedom, which I love. And I think because of my personal brand, it just has afforded me so many opportunities and has allowed me to work in the different capacities and that I want to. Because I get bored very easily. I'm a Pisces, and that's just my nature. And
I love when it's
I like to flow and just do what I want to do when I want to do it. And I think having a personal brand has really allowed that.
Rachel, you have a strong.
I just would say that working in social and working in like such short form content, writing a newsletter has been amazing. And if you ever have that itch to write longer form content, when I was at Bon Appetit, I would write articles just because it was like a good exercise for my brain. And so I would just say, as social managers, like experimenting with other types of content. On LinkedIn, you do an amazing job of talking about the work that you're doing, talk about the work that you do. Shout yourself out and just, I don't know, I think like writing about the work that you do and practicing writing about yourself and about social media in general is just a good thing to do.
Amazing.
What's your star sign?
Yeah.
Aquarius.
Let's do big three really quick. Yeah, let's do big three really quick. Sorry.
Yeah,
let's go.
I'm a Taurus.
But big three.
Oh, Taurus, rising Virgo, moon Libra. I know, it's a good one. I know.
I only know that I'm an Aquarius.
Oh my God, Rachel, we're going to go on CoStar.
We'll talk
guys. We'll figure it out.
Jade, what's yours?
Pisces, Virgo, Sagittarius.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
I'm a Capricorn, Sun, Scorpio, Moon, Virgo rising.
Love that.
I know you guys were like so curious about that. Okay, I actually have 1 million more questions, but we are running out of time and I do want to give time for audience questions. So does anyone have a quick question or two? I'm supposed to not call on you guys. A mic is just supposed to appear, I was told. So we'll wait to hear something.
Hey, Queens. Barry from Sweet Green here. Wanted to talk about Reddit. I know that we have not talked about Reddit at all. And as this panel is about unpacking social trends, what are y'all's thoughts on brands on Reddit? How can brands utilize Reddit? It's such a popping forum. Talk to me about it.
I love it for community like listening to kind of like see what your community is talking about. When I was working in the cannabis industry, we had a lot of just like random Reddit communities that would pop up because like cannabis is a subculture in itself. And there is where I found a lot of like the insights that I wouldn't have just as even as someone that is working on the products or learning about the products. Like cannabis is such an interesting industry to be a part of it because it changes so quickly, especially with different regulations happening. And, when I was coming into it, I wasn't really much of a cannabis consumer. So like I'll be looking at a vape pen and I'm like, how do I turn this on? Someone explain it to me. But I would go to Reddit and people would be pulling like, 5-page length explanations about how a vape pen works, which is crazy to see that. But, I think often as times as marketers, we feel like we know more than our customers do, and that's not always the case. So I feel like Reddit is a great place to get that education that you may have not already had.
And Reddit's going to be on stage so we can ask them more questions because I'm also like, I don't know how to work Reddit. It's
Yeah.
hard for me. Do we have any other questions?
Thanks.
Mike?
Oh, can I go?
Yeah, you go first and then
thanks.
we'll do you quick.
I'm just curious when you're building your personal brand and then you change. I mean, life happens. You have major changes in life. How do you shift your brand? Because sometimes it feels like you're almost like forgetting the people. You know, I'm thinking even a blatant example, like someone has a child, so they went from professional, now they're a mom. Like, how do you weave yourself through an evolving personal brand?
That's a great question. I think transparency is everything. As I'm approaching 30, so things are really, no, I'm kidding. You're like talking about motherhood, and that's very different. But I do think there's an element of who you are is always like the root of, that's not going to drastically shift. But I think the kind of content you make, I think it's so fun when people are like, there's this meme that was shared with me the other day that was a group text that someone sent. Listen, I'm going to start posting on TikTok more. I'm trying to get into the influencer space. So I need you all to engage. This is what I'm going to start doing. Signed management. It was, and so many of my friends sent it to me because it's very the way I move online and force my friends to engage with my content. But there was an element there that was so, this word TM, but authentic, that was fun in the way that it was expressing like, I'm going to try something new and you're going to come with me and let's see if it works and let's see if you enjoy it. And let me also expand the community that I'm reaching out to. I think sometimes we get too stuck in who we're reaching and not think about like, well, who else do we want to reach? Who else do we want to community build with? Is it more, with the example of motherhood, can I tap into more niches or follow certain influencers that have a similar beat as me that I want to get into? I think that there's something to really explore in terms of expanding not just the audience we have, but the audience we want. But yeah, so I think as long as you're transparent about it, I think it's all good.
I would also encourage you to post when you want to and the way you want to.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Oh my God.
Okay, I think we're out of time. Oh, wait, ask your question really quick.
Okay, I love Twitter personally, but for brands, how do you navigate some of the changes? Like the verification no longer means authentic, it means you paid for it in most cases. And they took away some of the teams that look through misinformation or some of the teams that lean into the accessibility space. So there's not a lot of protections there around brands and people. So how do you navigate that when you're leaning in?
I feel like it depends on the brand a little bit of how risk averse or like willing to take risks your brand is. I think that applying pressure in some ways where you can, so big brands that are not doing ads, things like that is helpful. I just think it comes down to like very much, is your brand comfortable being on there? I think like a pharmaceutical company might have a different opinion than a restaurant or whatever it might be. And so I think it's a very like case by case basis. But unfortunately, I think the like mass exodus from Twitter that we maybe thought was happening is not going to happen. And if your customers are there, a lot of customer service happens on Twitter as well. I think it's tough to totally, abstain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Good answer. All right, I'm so sad because we could talk forever. I feel like they could host this whole conference, but we're out of time. Please give a round of applause. So good.